It is no secret to longtime fans of the channel that trading card games have been a big influence in my life, both on and off the channel. In this series, both DemonBattler and myself will be opening 24 packs, or one box, of each core Yu-Gi-Oh! Booster set in chronological order. After each opening, we will build decks from all of the cards we have opened thus far, then duel each other in a best-of-3 match with 3 prizes up for grabs to improve our decks. The winner will receive 2 of those prizes, and the loser will get 1. The possibilities for prizes are almost limitless, including single cards, sealed product, structure decks, and much more. Every card in the entire game's history will be obtainable in some form. However, neither of us will be able to rest on past laurels easily. The ever-changing official Forbidden and Limited list, our own choices of cards to be banished to the Shadow Realm, and even changes to the very rules of the game will keep our decks and duels fresh. This is yet another Yu-Gi-Oh! Progression series. Return of the Duelist was released August 24th, 2012. This set introduced the Medolce archetype, focused on recycling cards to generate advantage and grind the opponent out. This archetype is also very good at rank 3 and rank 4 Xyz plays. This set also introduced the Chronomaly archetype, a series of Earth and Light monsters focused on rank 3, 4, 5, and 6 Xyz plays, revolving around the rank 5 Xyz monster, number 33, Chronomaly Machu Mech. This set also introduced the Prophecy archetype, a series of spellcaster-type monsters revolving around the spellbooks, some of the strongest spell cards the game has seen to date. We will not be discussing Prophecy cards in the opening today, simply because the cards needed to play the archetype are at extremely high rarity. This set also introduces new support for the Gyurgia, Ninja, Noble Knight, and Elemental Hero archetypes. I do have a few commons I'd like to go over. There are a lot of strong commons, mostly for the Medolce archetype, but there are some that I would like to cover, the first one being Chronomaly Golden Jet. This effectively allows you to make rank 5s very easily using level 4 monsters, as long as they are Chronomaly. And this level increase is permanent, so if you can get this to survive a couple of turns, you can increase it to make a higher rank Xyz monsters such as rank 6s, but with a stat line of 1300, 1400, that is not likely to occur. And next we get to our first Medolces, the first one being Medolce Mewfiel. All the Medolces have an effect that when they're destroyed by your opponent's card, either by battle or card effect, and sent to your graveyard, they get shuffled into your deck. And then they all each have their own unique effect. Mewfiels, when it's normal summoned, you can special summon a Medolce monster from your hand, which is very good at making rank 3 Xyz plays. And then our next one is going to be Medolce Butlerusk, which is going to be a mainstay of the deck. This one will let you add a field spell from your deck to your hand as long as you control another Medolce monster. So this is very good at finding their field spell, Medolce Chateau, which is incredibly powerful. Next we have Gyurgia Accelerator. There's a lot of Gyurgia support in this set, and most of it is quite good. You can special summon it from your hand in defense position for free if you control another Gyurgia monster, and Gyurgia is another archetype that's very good at rank 4 spamming. When it's sent from the field to the graveyard, you can target a Gyurgia monster in your graveyard and add it to your hand. There is a problem with this. It says you can! So most of the time, Gyurgia Accelerator is going to miss timing. It's 2012, Konami! Stop designing cards that miss timing. And then the next common I'd like to talk about, and this is a common, so we're going to get copies of it, is Medolce Chateau. So this is the powerhouse that makes the archetype tick. So most Medolce monsters have effects that when they're sent to your graveyard by your opponent's card, they get shuffled back into your deck. This will put them back in your hand, so this makes every single time one of your Medolces goes to the graveyard by your opponent's card, it pluses you. This is the biggest way that Medolce has to grind you out. And then the last common I'd like to talk about in the set is Where Art Thou? So Where Art Thou is a level 1 support card, but it does deal you 2000 damage if you do not normal summon the monster that was added this turn. However, it is pretty strong level 1 support. And then moving on to our rares, we do have quite a few powerful rares I'd like to go over. The first one being Chronomaly Crystal Bones, which lets you special summon itself for free from your hand if you don't control any monsters and your opponent does. And then when you special summon it that way, you can special summon another Chronomaly monster from your hand or your graveyard. So this is very good at making rank 3 plays as well. And then the only Madolche rare that's very important to the deck is a Madolche Chevalier. This is one of their largest normal summons at 1700 attack, and it prevents your opponent from attacking other Madolche monsters you control. So if you control 2 of them, this is an attack lock. And then the next rare I'd like to discuss is Geargiano Mark II. On normal or flip summon, you can special summon any Geargia monster from your hand or graveyard in defense position. Very good for making rank 3 Xyz plays. Then next is Geargia Arsenal, another Geargia card. For each Geargia monster you control, including itself, it gains 200 extra attack, so it's 1700 minimum. And then you contribute it to special summon a Geargia monster from your deck in defense position. Soul Drain is going to be a very strong side deck card going forward, and I could see this getting banned at some point. Just like Skill Drain, it costs 1000 life points to activate, but it prevents any monsters in the graveyard or any monsters that are banished from activating their effects. This is going to get side decked against Dragon Rulers. And then I have 3 Thunder-type monsters that I'd like to go under: Pawhunder, Mawhunder, and Sishunder. These are going to work very well together on their own to be able to make rank 4s, as well as provide support for any Thunder-based archetypes such as Batteryman. And I do have my eyes on playing Batteryman still, I'm just waiting for one more wave of support. So Pawhunder and Mawhunder each let you get an additional normal summon of a level 4 light Thunder-type monster. So Mawhunder and Pawhunder are very good at making rank 4s, and we also have to discuss a promo that's going to be coming up a little bit later on that could facilitate some extremely powerful and frustrating plays. I won't talk about the card too much until after the duel, but I do want to mention it by name. It is number 16 Shockmaster. This card is still banned today. And then Sishunder will let you buy back a Thunder-type monster of level 4 and light attribute if it has 1600 or less attack. So this will see play in the Batteryman archetype if we can make that work. Now, all 3 of these are rares, so they are not guaranteed to get, and especially not in multiples, but if we can pick these up, these will be great pickups for a collection. And then we get to the super rares. There are a lot of super rares in the set that are quite good. This is going to be the best slot in the set by far. The first super rare I'd like to discuss is a Madolche Majolaine. This card, on normal or flip summon, you get to add a Madolche monster from your deck to your hand, and it's 1400 attack, which is not bad. It's 1900 under Chateau. Next is Chronomaly Crystal Chrononaut, which would be really good, but both of us have number 17 Leviathan Dragon. However, it is another option for a level, or for a rank 3, and it can be very difficult to attack into, because once per turn when it's targeted by an attack, you can detach an Xyz material, to prevent it from being destroyed by battle or card effects, and deflect any battle damage you would have taken to your opponent. Next is Soul of Silver Mountain, which is a very interesting rank 3. It requires Earth specifically, and what this does is once per turn you can detach an Xyz material to effectively freeze one of your opponent's back row. They can chain it still, which is a little annoying, but it is a way to deal with back row in the extra deck. And then if it destroys an opponent's monster by battle, while it has Xyz material, you can special summon an Earth monster in your graveyard in face-up defense position. And the stat line isn't too bad either. The next Xyz monster I'd like to talk about is Swordbreaker. It's not a great Xyz, but it is a generic rank 6, and this is the lowest rarity we've had a rank 6 at for a while. So this could wind up being a very good target for our Evol package, because they make rank 6s fairly easily. The effect is mostly trinket text, but we're playing it for the 2700 body. And the last super rare I'd like to talk about is Void Trap Hole. So this can trigger when your opponent special summons a monster with 2000 or more attack. It will negate one of those monsters and then destroy that monster. So this is very good for dealing with things like Stardust Dragon. We do have some other options for dealing with it. However, this could wind up being good for things such as Trap Tricks later on. We are coming up to Trap Tricks. It's only a couple years away. And then at the ultra rare slot, we have a very important card for Madolche. It is their big boss monster right now, which is Madolche Pudding Cess. This is a huge body that can just remove monsters. It's 2,300 under Chateau, and then it can just start destroying your opponent's cards. It's very powerful, and it's going to be very important to have one of these in your Madolche deck. Otherwise, it just doesn't have a lot of options for interaction specifically, and you'll need to play more generic interaction cards. Next is the big payoff for the Chronomaly archetype, which is number 33, Chronomaly Machu Mech. This is generic, and it has an OTK involved with it as well. Once per turn, you can detach an Xyz material to target a face-up monster your opponent controls. You inflict damage to your opponent equal to the difference between its original attack and its current attack, and then if you do, it gains attack equal to the damage inflicted. There is a very janky OTK with this deck, where you can reduce your opponent's monster to 0 attack using a spell or trap card, and then attack into it and just kill your opponent that way. And then the last ultra rare I would like to talk about up here is going to be number 91, Thunder Spark Dragon. This is a 2,400. It's generic, and it requires 3 materials, and then you can detach all of those materials to destroy all other face-up monsters on the field. If you have ways to cheat extra materials onto Xyz monsters, and there are ways to do that now, you can detach 5 materials from it to destroy all cards your opponent controls. And then the cover card of the set is Heroic Champion Excalibur. This is a 2K that requires a level 4 warrior-type monster specifically, and then once per turn you can detach 2 Xyz materials from it to be able to raise it to 4,000 attack until your opponent's next end phase. This is going to be very, very good in warrior-focused decks. And the secret rares aren't great. There are 3 of them I'd like to discuss. The first one is going to be Grand Soil, the Elemental Lord, which has seen constructed play from time to time. This is the Dark Arm Dragon of Earths. In order to special summon it from your hand, you have to have exactly 5 Earth monsters in your graveyard. And then when it's special summoned, you can Monster Reborn unconditionally any monster in the graveyard. And then if it leaves the field, you do lose your next turn's battle phase, but it is a huge body. Now note that the special summoning effect is once per turn, but the summoning of this card is not a once per turn. So in the event that we're able to craft multiples of these, they're just like Dark Arm Dragon in that they can be summoned multiple times in the same turn and they add a ton of power to the board. Then the next secret rare I'd like to discuss is Gear Gigant X. This is the big Geargia payoff. This requires 2 level 4 machines specifically, and then once per turn you can detach an Xyz material to add a level 4 lower machine type monster from your deck or graveyard to your hand, and then when it leaves the field, you can special summon a level 3 or lower Geargia from your graveyard, and it's a 2,300 body. This is a very powerful card, and may convince us to play Geargia if we get it. And then the last secret rare I'd like to discuss is number 6, Chronomaly Atlantis. This is a huge body. It's 2,600 and a 3K butt as well. It's generic, and then this can let you do tons and tons of damage if you're able to make a rank 6. We did have a couple of additional sets come out at this time as well. Turbo Pack 8 was released to local game stores on June 1st of 2012, and boy is this Turbo Pack a stinker. There is not really anything in here that I would want to see. There's Magician's Circle, which I could use one more copy of to be able to play any type of spellcaster deck. And if we get a rank 6, that could be an incentive to play the Dark Magician deck, which I still have in mind, but I'm just waiting for a little bit more support for it, since it is a little bit clunky still. But I do have that in mind. The only other card that's even good in this pack is Thunder King Ryo, and that's an ultimate rare. But we did pull an ultimate rare Dark Arm Dragon, so they do exist. We also had a very powerful reprint set come out. Gold Series Haunted Mine was released on June 7th of 2012. A lot of the really good cards in this set I already have, and the structure of the packs is a little bit different from previous Gold Series. Now, the commons have a lot of zombie support in them. It has a Zombie Master reprint, which is pretty cool. There's a Goblin Zombie reprint, which is also pretty cool. A Book of Life as well. But really, a lot of these commons are dated, or they're just not in archetypes that we can apply. The gold rares are split differently this time. In every pack, you will get 2 gold rares and 1 ghost gold rare. So the gold rares have quite a few powerful things in them. There is Master Hyperion, which is pretty strong, a Grapha reprint. We have Bryanak, that's a solid reprint. Barredo, Utopia, Dark Hole, Starlight Road, these are all strong cards. Now, the Ghost Gold rares are not great. There's a Blue Eyes, but I'm not too terribly interested in it. It would be cool to pick up a 3rd, but we don't have a lot of incentive to get that now because a lot of the cards that support the archetype later are high rarity. Gores we already have. A Herald of Perfection, if we had another one, we could think about that. MST, of course, is a complete whiff because we have 3, and then Solemn Judgment. I think that this particular pack is going to be more valuable to Demon than it is to me, because he does not have a Solemn Judgment, and if he pulls a Solemn Judgment and I have to start playing around that, that's going to be a nightmare for me. And then lastly, we have one additional set that came out. Hidden Arsenal 6 Omega Xyz, released on July 24th of 2012. And this has a bunch of support for the Gem Knight, Violon, and Ulswarm archetypes. Now, there's not a ton that I'm interested in here, but I would like to talk about some of the Gustos, because this is where we get the rest of the Gusto support. And Gusto could very well be an archetype in Progression Series if one of us gets the stuff for it. So Gusto Falco is another floater that the deck plays. And then there's Kamui Hope of Gusto as well. And then Musto Oracle of Gusto. These are the 3 super rares that are important for the archetype. Now, Gusto Falco can miss timing. It is another floater, and it's very important for this archetype to have as many floating monsters as possible, specifically because of Daigustos Freeze, which is a linchpin of the deck. And then Kamui Hope of Gusto is a flip monster that lets you special summon a Gusto tuner from your deck. And then finally, Musto Oracle of Gusto will let you negate monster effects and then shuffle your floaters back into your deck. Being able to shuffle floaters back into your deck is very, very important for the Gusto archetype. And then at the Secret Rare, there are 2 Synchro monsters for the Gusto archetype. The most important one by far is Daigustos Freeze, which enables the archetype's OTK. So this is a 2K body that requires Gusto non-tuner monsters, and then you can, when it's synchro summoned, buy back a Gusto card in your graveyard and put it in your hand. It can't be destroyed by battle, and your opponent takes any battle damage you would have taken from battles involving any face-up Gusto monster you control. So the way this archetype can reverse OTK your opponent is you bring this out, and then you just ram floaters, and these are tiny monsters too. You just ram floaters into your opponent's biggest monster, special summon another one from your deck in attack position, and then you repeat this process until your opponent runs out of life points. And then the other one is a Daigusto Falcos, which is mostly just in there if you need to send some of your Gustos to the graveyard to be able to enable plays. Alright, we are at today's opening. Before we get to 24 packs of Return of the Duelist, we do have 3 packs of Turbo Pack 8 to go through. This set is basically Magician Circle, Thunder King Ryo, or Bust. So let's see if we can pick one of those up. That does not look like it. We already have a playset of Gozen Match, sadly. We did get a Magician Circle, which is good. And that's about it. That's pretty much what I was expecting to get. But I will take a Magician's Circle. That gives me a second one of those. So that's going to help out the Spellcaster deck quite a bit. But for now, let's move on to the main event. 24 packs of Return of the Duelist. A lot of stuff I'm looking for out of here. I would not mind seeing a Madolche core, but I do have some ideas in mind if we do not get a good Madolche core. A lot of it's going to depend on whether we pull Pudding Cess. So let's get started with our first pack. And nothing too special, some Chronomaly cards that, if we get enough of them, especially the Xyz monsters, we could be in business there, but nothing too special out of this first pack. Spellbook of Wisdom, not what we want to see, but we do have our first Mewfiel, our first Butler-esque. Bopple's not great, but we do need to see our playset of Butler-esque and our playset of Mewfiel if we do want to play Madolche. There's another Mewfiel. Second Chronomaly Crystal Skull is interesting, and we also got a Geargia Accelerator. I think we missed out on too many important Geargia cards to be able to play the archetype. Plus, it's another machine-based archetype, which I'm not a super big fan of playing right now, because System Down is already in Demon's sideboard. A lot of Chronomaly rares, but those aren't the rares that we're looking for, just because that's going to make us rely on pulling some pretty high rarity things because the Chronomaly archetype has a lot of high rarity payoffs, sadly. And there is an interesting rare, that is Fairy King Alverdiche. This is a card that I didn't discuss in the opening. It is a rank 4, that's 2300, and it makes all non-Earth monsters on the field permanently lose 500 attack and defense after detaching Seize material. So if you're playing a lot of Earth monsters, this can beat over 2700s. And there's a Chevalier, that's one of the rares that we need to play Madolche. And that's a card that's very important to have multiples of as well, because that card gets way better in multiples. There's another Butler Usk. Golden Jet's cool. And there's our first copy of Chateau, 7 packs in. So we are on pace to get 3 of those. It's really important that we get as many of these Madolche commons as possible. And there's a Sis Hunter, that's the worst of the 3, but if we can pick up a lot of those, that's going to make our Batteryman deck a lot better. Oh, shit! That's a Madolche Pudding Cess. That is a wonderful Ultra Rare. That is going to bring us towards playing Madolche, because, that card's kinda nuts! What a first holo to pull. Now, the rest of these cards are not very good, but I guess Geargia Accelerator's okay, but I still think we're missing too many cards to be able to play Geargia, but Madolche Pudding Cess is something I will absolutely take. A first copy of Where Art Thou as well. There's Geargia Arsenal. We're getting a lot of the Geargia cards as well. I just think there's too many cards that we've missed. Starting to get a little bit nervous because we're missing a lot of the Madolche commons, and we are halfway through this box. The Pudding Cess is also the only holo that we've gotten so far. There's that Mewfield. We did need another one of those. That makes 3, so we're looking for more copies of Chevalier and especially more copies of Chateau. We only have 1 Chateau so far, and we're 13 packs in, which is quite worrisome. There's a Geargiano Mark II. Lots of Geargia stuff in the rare slot, but we really need to see more copies of Chevalier. And there's another Chevalier. That's 2. And we got a second Chateau. This Madolche deck is looking good. I don't know if I'm going to want to play it without Ticket, but Chateau is quite strong. We have the Pudding Cess. I think we'll be in pretty good shape to eventually play Madolche, which is really cool because we had to deal with the Madolche deck last season, but now we're going to be the ones that have the Madolche deck this time. I'm not quite sure if I want to play the Mirror necessarily, because the Mirror can get pretty awful, but we shall see how the pulls wind up. And there is an Ultimate Rare. Unfortunately, I don't think this is going to be very playable. It is Hierophant of Prophecy, which unfortunately requires 2 spellcasters, and this is a Prophecy-specific Xyz, so unfortunately we won't be able to take advantage of that. We did get another Sis Hunter, which is unfortunately the worst one, but we will still play it. We did get another Butler Usk, though. That makes our 3rd Butler Usk. I believe we are just missing one. We're missing 1 Chevalier and 1 Chateau now, and then we'll have a full Madolche core. So we did pull another Madolche rare. It is not a very good one. It is Madolche T-Break. If you have no monsters in your graveyard when a spell trap is activated, you can negate the activation, return it to the hand. Then if you control a Pudding Cess, you can destroy a card your opponent controls. It's okay at dealing with trap cards, but we have better negations, so I don't think that's going to wind up seeing too much play, even though we do have a Pudding Cess. And there is another super rare. It is Blue Dragon Ninja, one of the Ninja support cards. It's sadly not too great. And there's our first copy of Soul Drain. Was wondering if this card was going to show up. This card is going to be super important for dealing with anything that triggers in the graveyard. This could wind up seeing just a ton of play, and that is also our 3rd copy of Chateau. So all we need is 1 more Chevalier, and we will have a full Madolche core. So I think we're going to wind up playing Madolche at some point. It really depends on some of the later sets, especially getting things like a Ticket, some of the extra deck monsters, but we have everything we need for Madolche out of this set. A 3rd Chevalier would be the icing on the cake, but it's not completely necessary. And there is another super rare, and it's one of the good ones. It is Soul of Silver Mountain. This is the rank 3 Earth Xyz. so we could wind up playing this in any Earth-based archetype. And there is a Paw Hunter. That's one of the 3 Thunder supports at the rare slot. Pretty good card. Happy to see at least one of these so we can slot this into our Battery Man deck later on. The rest of these are just not very good, and we have most of the commons that we were looking for anyway. Okay, so coming up on our last 3 packs, I am very happy with what I've opened. We have a full Madolche core, other than missing 1 Chevalier, but it is a rare, so we're not guaranteed to get it. I would like to see it show up in the last 3 packs, or another Bomb Super Rare, because there are a lot of Bomb Super Rares in here. So let's go ahead and open our pack. We did get another Paw Hunter, that's quite good. And so we will have access to 2 of those. So let's see what is in our second to last pack. There's another Geargia Arsenal, so we're getting the Geargia stuff as well. I just don't think we have a lot of the great cards for it, and we're still missing cards like Gear Gigant X, but that's such high rarity that it's very unlikely that we get the card. So let's go ahead and open up our very last pack, see if we can get something really spicy in the close. Maybe a 3rd Chevalier would be sweet, but we're most likely going to have to craft that. And that did not look like it. That looked like a Heroic Challenger card, which it is. I don't think any of these cards are going to impact us too much. Interesting that we got all 3 copies of Overlay Regen, which lets you give an Xyz monster an extra material, but I don't think that's going to wind up seeing play outside of some gimmicky combo decks. But overall, I am extremely happy with this opening. We got Madolche Pudding Cess, we got almost a full Madolche core. It'll really depend on what we open in Abyss Rising and Cosmo Blazer if we're going to be able to play Madolche at full power, but I think we have a new deck once something else gets banned out of our Card Curry deck, which I think is coming soon. See you in the games. I am absolutely stoked for this episode. This deck has been 44 episodes in the working, and we finally got the Morphing Jar we needed to play this deck. Introducing Empty Jar. So those of you who have never seen this before, this is a deck that has been around for a very long time in Yu-Gi-Oh's history, and it is designed to deck out your opponent. Once you get the loop going, it is not too difficult to do so, so I'll take you down the card by card. We have 3 copies of AD Changer, which let us turn our set Morphing Jar face up without having to use a manual position change. And this can just let us do other things with our flip monsters as well, which we have a lot of. We have 1 copy of Cyber Jar, which is something that Empty Jar decks wish they could have played for a long time, but we do get the chance to play it. 1 Dandelion, because if this is sent to the graveyard for any reason, including off of a Morphing Jar dump, a Foolish Burial dump, it will get us 2 tokens, which will help us survive. 1 copy of Morphing Jar. Been waiting to acquire this card from the Battle Pack, but now that we have it, we can play this very powerful, very degenerate deck that might cause a little bit of screaming. So Morphing Jar, when it's flipped face up, Demon has actually had this card for a long time, and I only just got my copy. When it's flipped face up, both players discard their hands, then draw 5 cards. Being able to flip this multiple times in a turn is what makes this so powerful. And then triple Needleworm to be able to get a little bit of additional milling, because with only 42 cards and all the draw power we have in this deck, it's very easy for us to deck out before our opponent. And then 1 Sandgen and 1 Witch of the Black Forest to search our Morphing Jar. And then for the spells, we have a lot of them. We have 28. 3 copies of Book of Eclipse, which sets all monsters on the field, and then it turns all of your opponent's monsters face up at the end phase, and then your opponent draws 1 card for each. 1 copy of Book of Moon to set our flip monsters. I would love to play more of this, but it is limited. 3 copies of Book of Tayo to be able to flip our Morphing Jar face up along with AD Changer. 1 Card Destruction, 1 Foolish Burial, 1 Gold Sarcophagus. This will be searching Morphing Jar. This entire deck is just Morphing Jar Turbo. 2 copies of Level Limit Area B. Not quite as good as it used to be because we have Xyz monsters that can get around L-Lab, but we do need to play enough attack floodgates to keep ourselves alive. 2 copies of Magical Mallet to be able to dig for a Morphing Jar. The card disadvantage does not usually matter because we're going to be refilling our hand off of a Morphing Jar anyway. One Messenger of Peace, triple 1 Day of Peace, good for keeping us alive, good for drawing our opponent cards, which is what we want to be able to get them through their deck faster. 2 Pot of Duality to dig for Morphing Jar, since we're not going to be doing any special summoning in this deck anyway, outside of 1 card. And then 1 Pot of Greed, 1 Serial Spell. This is our finisher for our combo. If we are ahead of our opponent in cards, the way we're going to be able to deck them out is by activating Card Destruction and then chaining Serial Spell to it. A Serial Spell will copy any normal spell card by discarding your entire hand. This is going to be used primarily on Card Destruction as a way to finish off our opponent. 2 copies of Spell Reproduction, this is the closest I could get to Magical Stone Excavation, to be able to buy back spell cards such as Pot of Greed, Book of Tayo, just ways to get to be able to activate the flip effect of Morphing Jar. 1 Stumbling as another attack floodgate. I did check my Invasion of Chaos pulls, and we only pulled 1 of these. 3 Shallow Grave to be able to recur our Needleworms and our Jars, and we just have 3 traps. We have Royal Oppression in here. We have not been playing Royal Oppression recently, and I think this is a card that we should have been playing from the outset. Now, this is going to find our way into main decks until it gets banned, and I think it's going to get banned soon. And then 2 copies of Torrential Tribute to be able to keep us alive in case we find our opponent going into big turns. And then for the side deck, we have our copy of Effect Veiler. I just don't feel like playing this in the main until I can see what my opponent is on. And I also don't want to bungle the surprise, because he's going to be able to see that we crafted an Effect Veiler at the speed we're going to be going through our deck. And then we have Dimensional Prison and Macrocosmos. These will be brought in against Madolche specifically. I don't think the deck is amazing yet, but Madolche is going to be very difficult for us to deck out. 2 copies of Prohibition. This, surprisingly, is going to name Mystical Space Typhoon quite a bit. We have 3 copies of Desert Sunlight in the side deck as well. If our opponent is on a passive deck as well, we will be able to turn all of our monsters to face-up defense position and activate all their flip effects at the same time. 1 copy of Grave of the Super Ancient Organism. We're actually going to be siding into a Floodgate strategy if our opponent is on something like Karakuri that revolves around Synchro monsters. 2 copies of Dark Bribe, 1 Solemn Judgment. We did end up having to cut the warning, and then 3 copies of Threatening Roar if we need to keep ourselves alive, but I didn't want to inflate the trap count too high, just because Spell Reproduction requires a high spell count, and there is absolutely nothing in this extra deck that we are going to be going into. I am stoked to be able to see a Demon's reaction to today's deck, and I don't think he is going to see this coming. I hope you're ready to high-five the sky, because it's time to duel. So, there are some really big tins on the line in this episode.
Yeah, I didn't really mention that just yet, but yeah, there's some important stuff coming up here.
Nice Dino Rabbit package.
Especially considering the fact that we're only, what, like 2 episodes away from our band? And honestly, that's not really far enough along on my radar yet to matter.
Oh no! I think we're going to be seeing on one end of the spectrum of the other a lot of Logia.
Yeah, probably.
But we shall see. This is going to be a very pivotal episode. Either way,
it is.
Got with Paper Gang. Got with Paper Gang. Come on.
Thank God. All right. Because God knows I need that extra turn. All right. So draw. Standby, main. I'm not entirely thrilled about this, but I feel like, because it's probably going to show something, but why not? I'm going to activate Pot of Duality.
That's a duality.
Oh, well, I already know exactly what I'm picking up.
Okay, back on the birds, I see. Okay, there's your Max C. Max C's a pretty good pickup, but looks like you're back on the birds.
Yeah, honestly, I had like 4 different deck ideas to work with, and I was like, do I want to go with this, or do I want to try something else? But in the end, I feel like this is a good enough test for right now. So I'm going to just do a humble T-set and pass.
Draw for turn, standby phase, main phase. You are not going to like when I'm doing too much at all. I am going to set 2 cards face down. I'm going to set a monster, and then I'm going to activate Book of Tayo, targeting my set monster.
Oh, Jesus Christ, you're running Empty Jar?
I just got this out of the battle packs.
Oh my God. Let me think real quick. I think I'm gonna go ahead and chain the Maxi then to Morphing Jar.
Why
just
not?
on the off chance.
Why not? You're gonna lose it.
And of course I have the one collude already.
That's pretty good.
Nice.
So I am going to activate 1 day of peace.
Oh god, yeah. My niece doesn't like this either.
That does not surprise me in the slightest. So I am going to activate Book of Eclipse.
Okay.
So that's going to set the Morphing Jar. I'm going to activate Spell Reproduction, pitching the Shallow Grave and a second Book of Eclipse to get Book of Tayo to my hand.
Oh my god. Okay.
I will set 2 additional cards face down. Then I will activate said Book of Tayo.
Alright.
This is a nice way to get to see your whole deck, too.
Yeah, it is. Oh, man.
Well, there's Pot of Greed.
Of course it... Well,
It had to show up. It had to show up eventually.
Yeah.
Then I'm gonna mallet for... How much do I want to mallet for? Let's mallet for 4.
That part is, I can't even be mad because I pulled Exodia bullshit like this a few episodes back, so I have no room to talk.
1, 2, 3, 4. All right, there's the one Book of Moon I'm allowed to play.
Now, question: does that mean that Morphing Jar gets flipped back up because of Book of Eclipse, or no?
Book of Eclipse only flips up your monsters at the end phase.
Oh, okay.
So I will set this. Although if this goes correctly, according to my favor, there will not be another turn because I did draw a second Book of Tayo.
God damn it! All right.
So I will pitch this 80 changer, and this dandy.
And of course, 2 of my solutions already get taken out now. Well, multiple of my solutions get taken out.
Trigger dandy.
All right.
So I will get 2 fluff tokens. Then I am going to activate Book of Eclipse.
Huh? Yeah, that's fine.
So that'll set the jar. Effective AD changer engrave.
Target 1 must... Is it not face down? Oh my god. I mean, it's not face up.
Nope.
Jesus. Yeah, that's fine.
Trigger jar. Yeah, unfortunately, duality is not going to be too helpful. Okay, now I actually have to think about how to proceed from here. Do I have another...
Let's see. So you have 2 Tayu spent, just on the off chance that this actually matters. Let me remember that.
Yeah, we are still under 1 day of peace.
I don't want a Watt Lemur situation happening. Wait, was Dandy in this last batch of discards or the previous?
Dandy was last batch.
Okay, so I get to draw now.
Yeah, you do get to draw off Maxi. Yeah, you're correct.
A lot of good it's going to do me, but...
I have to find the line here, because this is a little complicated, what I'm going to have to do. As it turns out, playing combo decks is hard. And I am sorry for you that you just have to sit here and watch this.
I mean, I can't... Like I said, I tried Exodia a few episodes back. I don't exactly have room to bitch here.
I mean, to be fair, this is more degenerate than Exodia, probably.
I mean, that's only... Well... Technically, yes, but that's only because this is more successful, more effective. And here, I thought putting my deck to 41 cards made me clever.
I think I have to try this. I don't like this line, but I think I have to try it.
All right, let's see it.
I'm going to activate the Shallow Grave. I will target the Cyber Jar that's in my graveyard.
Interesting. Okay. I will target my... Normally, I'd pick my Sangan, but right now, that's kind of a bad thing. Is it level 4 lower monster, or is it just
any monster, and they get set.
All right, I guess I'll bring back my Elf and the Raven then.
Okay, I will bring back my jar. You will draw a card off of Maxi. Then I'm going to banish AD Changer to flip the jar. So that's going to blow everything up. See what we wind up with here. There's a very dead dad.
Yes, there is.
So the Needleworm I'm obviously going to set. And then I'm going to put the rest of this nonsense in my hand.
I feel like I might as well just throw these in the graveyard now. So I get another draw. Because of... Wow. And here I thought, and it's funny because I said before that you're the one person that would never take the Max C challenge, and sure enough, you're doing it and winning.
I haven't even special summoned that many monsters, is the sad thing.
Yup.
You have 5 cards in your deck?
I was gonna say, if you got a Book of Tayo or another AD changer.
Did I draw another AD changer? I think my other AD changer is still in my deck, unfortunately.
Figures.
I'm gonna activate 1 Day of Feast.
Oh, right, that's not once per turn.
No,
okay.
it is not. Then I'm going to activate Spell Reproduction, pitching
Oh, God.
Gold Sarcophagus, and Stumbling to get my Book of Tayo to hand. Then I'm gonna flip the Book of Tayo, or use the Book of Tayo to flip up the Needleworm that I had set. So that should mill the rest of the cards in your deck.
Yep, so all you have to do is end your turn, and I'm done.
I'll set a back row, could be anything, and then I'll pass the turn.
Yep.
Well, that happened.
Yes, that did.
Now comes all the sideboard hate.
Fuck.
Well, maybe we'll see what happens if I don't get Morphing Jar in my opening hand.
Maybe. Thank God that that's a limited card, because... Oh my God.
It's also just super hard for us to get.
True. Standby, main. I'm just gonna set 2. Set a monster and pass.
Card for turn. Standby phase, main phase. I did not get Morphing Jar in my opening hand. I did get this, though, so I'll get it eventually.
I mean, I know exactly what you're digging out. There's not really much I can do about that.
Yeah, it's gonna be the jar, obviously.
Okay, so I have a turn. I have 2 turns to kill you.
Then I think I'm just gonna set a pair and pass.
All right. During the end phase, I'm gonna MST the back row.
It was a bait.
All right. Draw. Standby main.
I mean, if you didn't have all 3 of those in, you were gonna put them in now.
All right. I don't like this, but I have to. I'm gonna summon Sangan. Flip summon Sangan.
Sure.
I'm gonna summon out Glow-a-Bulb.
You're gonna make a 4?
Hello, Armory Arm.
I bet you can't wait to get Balmung.
Yeah.
To have an actual good Synchro 4.
Activate Sangan.
Sangan's fine.
Let's see. Let's add Witch to my hand.
Floaters float.
God, I can't believe I'm doing this, but I'm going to mill a card to bring back Glow-a-Bulb.
Oh, you're making a 5?
I'm going to Call of the Haunted, targeting Sangan.
And just to make it clear, Sangan is not yet a once per turn.
No, it is not.
Oh, this is to go into, like, scrap?
Yes, it is. Sangan effect again.
Yup.
I will add a copy of Gale to my hand.
Gale's fine.
Let's see. So Glow-a-Bulb has been used. That way I can keep track. And then I'm going to activate Scrap's effect, targeting Call of the Haunted and your face down.
Sure, it's Needleworm.
Battle phase. 28.
28 in.
Main phase 2, I will set a card and pass it to you.
Card for turn.
Ooh, I have a chance.
Standby phase, 1 turn on Gold Sark. Main.
Yep.
Well, I'm going to give you something to use Scrap Dragon on.
Messenger.
Then,
Alright.
Then I'm going to set my entire hand. Go ahead.
Okay. Draw. Standby, main.
I mean, I'm going to make you use that.
You are. I'm going to set a card and then use Scrap's effect, targeting Messenger and my face down right here.
Sure.
Then I'm going to run out my Witch of the Black Forest.
Sure.
Battle. Witch into your defense.
That's 80 changer.
And Scrap for 28.
28 in.
And I'll end my turn.
Alright, card for turn. Standby phase, I'll put the jar in my hand.
Yes, you will.
Go to main. Set a card. Set a monster could literally be anything.
Yep.
Banish the AD changer. Target the set.
Okay. So, flip the jar. Chain link to Fiendish Chain.
I think this will stop Fiendish Chain. So Morphing Jar will get so the Morphing Jar will get set, and then Fiendish Chain will no longer negate it because it's no longer face up, and then we will resolve the effect of Morphing Jar. Activate card destruction.
Damn it! Of course, you have that when I have the out for next turn.
That does put an AD changer in my graveyard as well. Then I will set 1, Dueling Book, please. Set 2, set 3. What's in my graveyard? Do I have one in there already? I better get this out of my deck before it becomes a problem. I'm gonna Foolish Burial.
Oh, God. Okay.
This is just gonna dump an AD changer.
Well, that's 10 more cards that I no longer will have. So that you've got half of my deck on lockdown.
Activate AD changer.
Alright. Not gonna lie, you are so lucky that that I did not go the Dark World route like I originally thought. All it would have taken was 1 gold, and you would have been screwed.
Oh boy, if you did that, I would just lose the game on the spot. Let's go Book of Eclipse. Then I am going to just banish the last AD changer. Unfortunately, I couldn't really use the Book of Eclipse there, because if I set it, I can't use it.
Right.
So I need a way to set my Morphing Jar now. Let's activate 1 Day of Peace. So you're at 9 cards. Activate 1 Day of Peace.
Alright.
Activate 1 Day of Peace.
Ugh.
I'm going to activate Spell Reproduction. I will pitch Pot of Greed. Never thought I would say that. And Magical Mallet to get the Book of Eclipse that's in my graveyard.
Alright.
Activate Book of Eclipse.
Okay.
So that's going to set the jar. Activate Book of Tayo to flip the jar.
Alright.
So that's going to toss all our hands away. We'll draw 5. Oh, this should go to the graveyard because that resolved. Then I'm just going to proceed to the end phase and let Book of Eclipse resolve.
Which flips these up. I draw 2. And yeah, that's the game.
I had to, because this deck was going to become unplayable very, very quickly, and it took... I have been wanting to play Empty Jar for a very long time in Progression Series, because I just happen to have everything for it except Morphing Jar, but Morphing Jar is so damn hard to get.
See, I'm the opposite. I've had most of it, including the Morphing Jar. I just never thought it would be in a position to where it would actually be useful. This is crazy. Like, man. And the crazy thing is, I really didn't have much of anything to side for this. Like, all I sided in was, like, my 3 Call of the Haunted, and I'm not even sure what else I sided in, actually, if anything.
This deck is so much more inconsistent than the version I'm used to playing, because the version of this that I'm used to playing makes Gallant Granite to find Morphing Jar, so it's actually really difficult for me to find the card. I got lucky finding a way to get to it quickly. I actually had a ton of attack floodgates in my side deck, just in case you brought in backer removal. I was going to try to... I figured you were going to bring in backer removal. So I was trying to both overload your backer removal with set cards, as well as bring in a ton of stuff. I actually brought in Grave of the Super Ancient Organism for Scrap Dragon.
Oh, wow.
To be able to stop Synchro Monsters.
Right.
I couldn't play things like Threatening Roar because this deck is supposed to be playing Magical Stone Excavation, but Magical Stone Excavation is very difficult to get.
Yeah, I think I have 1 copy of it, and I think you might have one, because didn't they have one in the Merrick deck?
There might have been one in there, but Spell Reproduction worked just fine. There was one other thing that you didn't get to see with the card destruction. I have a copy of Serial Spell in this deck. That's been an Empty Jar deck since they got started, with, like, Because this is from Rise of Destiny.
True.
This was also back when no one could play Empty Jar because the cards that you needed to make it were $300 a card.
Yeah.
But
Man,
I'm just glad to see this degeneracy actually showing up in Progression Series, and all you have to do to stop this deck from ever showing up again is banning Morphing Jar.
Yeah, honestly, that's the sad part. Like, I could do that, and I probably will at some point. It's just a matter of I have one, and I had teched it in a couple of times, but yeah, this is probably going to adjust my priorities just a little.
And just because I did this to you, I will let you in on something important that I did at the end of the last episode.
And what's that?
I crafted an Effect Veiler.
Ooh, nice. So, there is one thing I feel like I should probably mention to you, and I'm sure you're probably not too surprised about this. Check my graveyard. Notice this.
Oh, did you craft a third Maxi?
I crafted my third. I figured, if nothing else, this is either going to help force the issue on banning, at which point it's a card that I'm kind of okay letting go, or at 3 copies, it's a lot less of a sacky card for you to deal with.
Oh,
especially because in a couple episodes, it's going to matter a lot more, because guess what's in one of the tins for the second wave? Depending on how things go, you might end up with a Maxi too.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
We will have to see, but I am very excited about these tins because, yeah, one of them has Dirt Rabbit in it.
Yep. So we'll get to that in just a second.
So there are 4 promos that came out. We did get a little bit ahead of ourselves with the tins. The tins have been coming out in 2 waves for a long time, and to be able to stay consistent, we're going to be distributing all 4 tins once the second wave comes out, so we won't be seeing Dino Rabbit in Progression Series quite yet, but it's coming. It's coming. But for now, we have this Elemental Hero Fusion that probably won't see too much play in the Progression Series, as well as Slifer the Sky Dragon, which also won't see too much play in the Progression Series because that card is complete ass, but we have 2 very powerful Xyz monsters. The first one is Kochi Dragon, which is a generic 4, that can be a double attacker if it destroys an opponent's monster by battle, which is quite strong. But the card that I am going to be taking, and will surprise no one, is a card that is extremely banned for multiple reasons, and that is number 16 Shockmaster. This card is not fair.
No, it is not. Especially because 3 level 4s are not that hard to get on the field effectively, and the fact that it negates the effects of that type of card until the end of your opponent's next turn is just awful, simply because it means that for 3 turns you basically can't play anything.
Just anything relevant. Most of the time it's just going to name monster effects. And the fact that you can lock your opponent out for 3 turns is just disgusting.
So with that being the case, I'm going to be smart and pick up the Kochi Dragon because, as it turns out, I currently do not have a rank 4 at all, so I will take a card that can be useful as opposed to letting my Xyz pool stay dwindled.
And then after that, I'm gonna grab the hero just because, well, I do have some kind of hero pool, but I don't think it's going to get used, and Slifer is just god-awful.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm okay with taking Slifer. Who knows, maybe I'll find a way to make use of it somewhere, but I don't know. It'll be interesting to see.
Alright, well, I have a lot of winnings to discuss, so I'll leave you to yours as well. I don't think we're going to be getting away with that again, because there are plenty of counters to the deck. It just takes 1 piece of effect negation and you just lose the game. So I think I might be able to concoct a side deck plan to be able to recover from that. It's just going to be a little hard. I mostly just wanted to get the chance to try to craft myself a Rescue Rabbit, because we're not going to be getting a Rescue Rabbit quite yet. We did make a little bit of a mistake with the chronology since we are waiting for both waves of tins to show up. Let's see if we can grab ourselves a rare. It looks like we're going to get a rare. So we'll see what rares I am looking for. I'm kind of looking at crafting like a Mahunter, possibly? But we'll have to see what there is. So for my first rare craft, the card I'm going to be taking is actually my third copy of Droll and Lockbird, because Starstrike Blast rotates out with this set. So I'm going to pick up my third copy of Droll and Lockbird. Now this is going to be very, very important when we get to Link format and we have to deal with Goki. One of the best ways to deal with Goki is side deck Droll and Lockbird. And then we'll see what we get for a respin, really hoping for that secret rare wedge so I can pick up a copy of Rescue Rabbit, because I'm going to have to wait for a long time to pick that up. And even by then... Oh, go, go, go! No, that's not going to go. That's going to be an SR craft. I have a lot of options for super rares, though, so I'm going to take a moment to figure out what it is I want. So the card I'm going to grab for my super rare craft is I'm going to craft a second copy of Eviltile Westlow, because I want to be able to make Logia more easily, especially since we're going to, in a few episodes, have a tin that would potentially let me not only get a Rescue Rabbit, but it would let me get a second copy of Logia, which is enormous. So I'm going to go ahead and lock this pick of Eviltile Westlow in. And that'll do it for today's episode of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Progression Series. Join us next time when we open Abyss Rising, and hopefully pick ourselves up some mermails. Until then, see you around.